What if the first Americans didn't just survive the Ice Age, but thrived in it? Hunting creatures 6 times heavier than a grizzly bear. 13,000 years ago, as the last Ice Age loosened its grip on the continent, winter still ruled the land. North America was a kingdom of cold, swept by cutting winds, coated in snow, scarred with permafrost that never thawed. The world was changing, glaciers retreating and leaving behind raw scars on the earth. Forests existed, but only in thin streaks. Most of the land was a frozen plain dotted with Ice Age lakes, marshes, and endless stretches of tundra. In that hostile arena, the people we call Clovis emerged, not as wanderers lost in a frozen wilderness, but as experts of adaptation, innovation, and pure resilience. They belonged to this world the way wolves belong to winter. Their territory was vast, almost unimaginable. From the woodlands of the east to the sweeping prairies of the west. From the chill of present-day Canada down through New Mexico and beyond. They did not merely pass through this land, they understood it, mapped it, mastered it. And despite the ferocity of the cold, despite predators, despite the dangers of starvation, they refused to fade away. They hunted with precision. They crafted shelters against the wind and snow. They migrated with strategy, following herds across hundreds of miles. They thrived where others would freeze, carving out a life on the edge of the Ice Age, proving that being human meant more than simply surviving. It meant adapting, building, and enduring with purpose. Their signature invention, the mark of their culture, was the Clovis point, a fluted spearhead carved from stone like flint, chert, or obsidian. These weren't random chunks chipped by trial and error. Each one was carefully planned, shaped with skill, sharpened along both edges, and finished with a groove at the base so it could be securely hafted to a wooden shaft. More than 10,000 Clovis points have been unearthed at over 1,000 archaeological sites across North America. That number alone proves 2 things: how effective the weapons were, and how astonishingly far the Clovis people ranged across the continent. Their world was not local, it was continental. And the Clovis toolkit extended far beyond spearheads. They carried scrapers to work hides, drills to shape wood and bone, razor-sharp blades for slicing meat, and needles carved from long bones. Those bone needles found in Wyoming tell a powerful story. They weren't just wrapping themselves in furs, they were sewing tailored garments, layering hides, crafting clothing built for survival in cold climates. And when they faced massive prey mammoths, mastodons, ancient bison, they didn't rely only on close-range strikes. They launched darts with an atlatl, a throwing lever that delivered speed, distance, and penetrating force. A primitive-looking device by today's standards, but remarkably aerodynamic, efficient, and deadly. This was not a set of primitive tools. It was a survival technology, a mobile, adaptable, highly refined toolkit that allowed the Clovis to hunt, butcher, craft, migrate, and endure the Ice Age with intelligence and strategic skill. The heartbeat of Clovis survival was megafauna, colossal Ice Age animals that dwarfed everything we know today. Mammoths and mastodons, ancient bison heavier than modern bulls, wild horses built for the cold, and even camels that roamed North America long before deserts ever existed. Archaeologists have found their bones interlocked with Clovis points, frozen in time, proving beyond doubt that these hunters targeted giants. A remarkable 2024 isotopic study in Science Advances analyzed the remains of a Clovis woman and revealed something astonishing. Nearly 40% of her diet came from mammoth alone, the rest from other massive game such as elk and bison. Small animals and plants, those played only a marginal role. Their calories came from the heavyweights of the Ice Age, and when they brought one of these giants down, it wasn't just a trophy, it was the lifeline of the community. A single mammoth could feed mothers, infants, elders, and hunters alike for days, maybe weeks. High-fat meat, marrow, organs in a frozen landscape. That was survival gold. These mega meals allowed the Clovis people to move, to travel, to explore. They weren't tied to one place waiting for scarce plants or small game. They followed the herds just as predators do. They tracked migration routes, reading the land, the wind, and the ice. That mobile strategy didn't just keep them alive, It helped them spread across nearly an entire continent, one seasonal camp at a time. Clovis people weren't wandering endlessly in chaos. They operated with intention. They had seasonal camps, temporary settlements near dependable water rivers, springs, Ice Age lakes. Archaeological layers reveal hearths where fires burned through cold nights, pits where tools were shaped and sharpened, zones for scraping hides and tanning leather. These camps weren't accidents, they were structured hubs of life. At major sites like Blackwater Draw in New Mexico, evidence shows people returned for centuries. They didn't just camp, they engineered. They dug wells to access fresh groundwater, controlled its flow, and built clusters of activity. It's one of the earliest signs of water management anywhere in the Americas. Daily life was a rhythm of essential tasks: butchering mammoths and bison, stripping hide, separating fat, cracking bones for marrow, working those hides into clothing, blankets, or shelter coverings not just to survive the cold, but to endure it comfortably. Craftsmen shaped flint points, hafted new spear shafts, sharpened tools dulled from heavy use. Maintenance was constant, not optional. They gathered small game and edible plants where possible, but these were supplements, never the main source of calories, and life wasn't purely work. There were social moments too. Groups may have come together during certain seasons, sharing resources, trading stone from distant quarries, exchanging knowledge, even practicing rituals suggested by the presence of red ochre. In this frozen world, survival wasn't just about killing large animals. It was community, cooperation, skill, planning, a shared understanding that every person, every action, helped the group endure through the brutal winter landscape. In the Ice Age, staying in one place too long could mean death. The land changed with the seasons, and so did the Clovis people. Their camps weren't permanent towns, they were strategic bases, rebuilt and abandoned as conditions shifted, move when needed, settle when useful. That flexibility wasn't chaos, it was survival intelligence. Their shelters likely relied on massive mammoth or bison hides stretched over wooden poles or even large bones. Inside, bedding of grass and softer hides insulated bodies from frozen soil. The presence of hide scrapers and bone needles tells us something powerful. They weren't wrapping themselves in ragged skins. They were sewing garments, layering coverings, engineering solutions to combat the brutal cold. Fire was the heartbeat of every camp. Hearths show up again and again at Clovis sites. Fire meant warmth. Fire meant meat and fat sizzling, unlocking precious calories. Fire meant light during the short, dim days of winter. And when you pair that warmth with dense clothing and heavy megafauna fat, you get the formula that kept them alive through nights that could freeze exposed flesh in minutes. Mobility was another key. When prey shifted or temperatures dropped, they didn't cling to a dying landscape, they moved. Their gear was light enough to carry. Stone points, hide coverings, wooden frames. They followed herds, followed weather, followed opportunity. Movement was their law of survival. Winter wasn't merely endured. It became part of their rhythm, a cycle of adapting, migrating, building, dismantling, and thriving. In their hands, the cold didn't mean doom. It meant strategy, timing, and remarkable resilience. Organic remains from the Ice Age almost never survive. Yet we have something priceless. Anzac I, the fragile bones of an infant buried in Montana nearly 12,900 years ago. The burial wasn't accidental. The child was laid to rest with more than 100 stone and bone tools, along with sacred red ochre. Those artifacts speak of ceremony, of love, of ritual. This was not abandonment. This was remembrance. Genetic studies on the Anzac child reveal direct ties to many modern Native American communities, which means the Clovis weren't just isolated wanderers whose culture vanished into the wind. They were ancestors. Their blood still flows in living people today. Their known culture existed for only a few centuries, roughly from 13,050 to 12,750 years before present. A blink in archaeological time, but in that blink, they expanded across an entire continent, adapting to dozens of ecosystems, enduring brutal winters, crossing rivers, surviving drought, following herds, mastering landscapes from plains to forests to marshlands. Their legacy isn't limited to fluted spearheads. It's a pattern of mobility and resilience. It's a survival model forged in the harshest conditions the Ice Age could offer. After the Clovis came waves of diverse indigenous cultures, each unique, each brilliant, yet the Clovis imprint remains the earliest continent-wide cultural footprint in the story of the Americas. We return to the winter plain. Snow drifts across the silent tusks of a mammoth skeleton, half buried in ice and time. The land stretches empty, windswept, quiet yet alive with echoes of a people who once claimed it. As the camera pulls wide, a message fades in. What we take for granted, mobility, resourcefulness, adaptability, once saved entire peoples. Because the Clovis were never just hunters chasing their next meal. They were innovators, crafting technology ahead of its time. They were survivors whose strategies were built on cooperation, intelligence, and long-term vision. They remind us that survival isn't luck, it's planning, effort, and relentless ingenuity. In their frozen world, community mattered, knowledge mattered, skill mattered, and those values resonate deeply even today. In our ultra-modern lives, where survival looks different, but the principles remain the same. Think about it. In a place most of us wouldn't last a single night, they built an entire existence, not temporary, not accidental. A life with purpose, structure, meaning. They faced winter not as helpless victims hoping nature would spare them, but as determined pioneers shaping their destiny through grit and intelligence. It wasn't brute force that kept them alive. It was shared wisdom. It was mobility. It was adaptability. These are the same human strengths that carried our ancestors through the Ice Age and continue to define us as a species today. If you're fascinated by how our ancestors survived and thrived in the harshest conditions Earth could throw at them, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell on Native Legends Uncovered. And share this video with someone who thinks humans only survived Ice Age out of desperate luck, not skill. Because what if the real legacy of Clovis isn't just in stone points, but in our capacity to adapt, to endure, to build civilization from cold, wind, and mammoth flesh? See you next time, when we dig into the mystery of how those same people may have vanished and what it means for the first Americans.